Well, just when you thought conference realignment was winding down and we wouldn't have to worry about it for a little while, here comes this headline. Michigan discussed in a regents meeting leaving the Big Ten in light of the punishment handed down by Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti to Jim Harbaugh. Welcome into the channel. I am John Kurtz. Here on this channel, we talk conference realignment, college football, and college basketball all week, every week. Live shows Wednesdays and Sundays. Please consider subscribing. The live shows are a blast, and I give you content like this during the week as well. Please like the video, and you can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 as well. This is a wild one. We've all heard about what's going on with Michigan, the sign stealing scandal, Jim Harbaugh being suspended and not actually being able to coach that game against Penn State. And Michigan did not take very kindly to that. I'm about to read you an article from Sports Illustrated written by Michael Rosenberg. Very pointed article where the main gist of the entire, I would call it more of a column, was about how bad Petitti botched this and that Michigan should be exonerated, or at the very worst, just given much more of a trial here before any kind of punishment was handed down. So keep that in mind. But the nugget that leads off the story is a juicy one, that Michigan did discuss whether or not they should leave the Big Ten. And I know a lot of people will say this is probably just a hollow threat, but in the world of conference realignment, I think you have to take everything at least somewhat seriously with the way all of this has unfolded. So let me read you from the article, and we'll analyze a little bit more here in just a moment. Michael Rosenberg's piece starts by saying this: Tony Petitti has no idea how badly he just botched his job. But here is a hint. In a meeting last week, Michigan's regents discussed possibly leaving the Big Ten if Petitti suspended Coach Jim Harbaugh without what the school considered due process. A person familiar with those discussions told Sports Illustrated. That may sound like an empty threat, but the fact that it was even discussed should tell you how angry Michigan is right now about how Petitti has handled this. The process that led to Harbaugh's 3-game suspension was a clumsy execution of mob justice, and it is by no means over. Michigan is expected to take the Big Ten to court Friday night to try to allow Harbaugh to coach Saturday. Spoiler alert, that didn't work. So, again, is this just a bargaining chip? Is this just a hollow threat to try to get the Big Ten's attention? Perhaps. I mean, I think that would be the most likely explanation here. But we've seen all sorts of wild stuff happen in realignment. I mean, you had Kevin Warren and the Big Ten cozying up to the Pac-12 and the gentleman's agreement written on a napkin alliance, and then very shortly thereafter taking the two bell cows, or one bell cow and another close to it in USC and UCLA from the Pac-12, eventually leading to their demise. And they also delivered the kill shot by taking Oregon and Washington, right? Anything can happen in conference realignment. It is something that should be on Tony Petitti's radar. It's at least something to monitor as the situation moves forward, because you have a brand new commissioner here that now has ruffled some feathers. Remember Kevin Warren's relationship with the Big Ten presidents. They did not like him very much. There were plenty of missteps along the way, starting with what was going on with COVID, ending with how much he wanted to conquer everybody else in the college football game. He seemingly had more of an appetite for expansion. The Big Ten probably does not want another scenario where they're going to have a high-profile, really unhappy customer with the commissioner. This is something to put on your radar to monitor moving forward no matter what. And I know the other thing is, what about logistically? Like, how could that even happen? I think we've thrown all of that out the window with what's happened with Florida State, Clemson, and that whole Magnificent Seven in the ACC. That group that has decided, hey, there's some way we can get out of this. They've thrown all their lawyers at it. I'm sure Michigan could try to do the same type of thing if they really wanted to, if they were really, really that motivated. And I know Greg Sankey is kind of downplayed in the SEC any sort of appetite to go expand more, but like, if you have a chance to get Michigan and take that kind of shot across the bow at your primary competition, really the only competition that is going to be left in college football, I would think that seems pretty enticing to one Mr. Sankey. So I'm not going to totally just brush this off. I'll read to you a little bit more here. It's going to be from Michael Rosenberg and then transition to an ESPN article with some of the nuts and bolts of this. But Michigan players found out 20 hours before their biggest game of the year so far at Penn State that the conference suspended their coach. A Michigan source says the Big Ten did not even inform the school until half hour after ESPN reported the news. That is the sign of a commissioner who has no idea what he's doing. Okay, again, Rosenberg's words there, not mine. This was a statement that says Commissioner Petitti's hasty action today suggests that this is more about reacting to pressure from other conference members than a desire to apply the rules fairly and impartially. That's a Michigan statement. By taking this action at this hour, the commissioner is personally inserting himself onto the sidelines and altering the level playing field that he is claiming to preserve. Now, I was just watching, as I record this on Saturday, a college football halftime show where Emmanuel Acho was talking about how the head coach really isn't all that important on the sideline during a game, so I might disagree a little bit with that statement from Michigan, but I understand why they're saying that and why that statement is there. It would be a radical move for Michigan to leave the Big Ten, which is set to expand to 18 teams next year. Wolverines first became a part of the conference in 1896 when it was known as the Western Conference. But again, tradition be damned, all right? We can't hold up an 1896 traditionalist sort of thing to say why Michigan would never leave the Big Ten, because we've seen all that has been thrown out the window by all parties involved in conference realignment so far. As far as the actual punishment goes, in a 13-page letter sent to Michigan Athletics Director Ward Manuel on Friday, Petitti wrote that the Big Ten believed Michigan violated the sportsmanship policy because a university football staff member engaged in an organized, extensive, years-long in-person advanced scouting scheme that was impermissible. Quote, the goal of the scheme was to gain an unfair advantage by stealing the signs of teams that the university's football team was due to play later in the season. This is from Petitti. Such misconduct inherently compromises the integrity of competition. Petitti wrote that even though the league made other Big Ten programs aware of the allegations, the effect on the opponents of the university's football team remains ongoing. Quote, the integrity of the competition is the backbone of any sports conference or league, Petitti said. That is especially true for sports contests between student athletes. Athletes compete to win. Competition that is only about winning while disregarding the rule of fair play diminishes all of us, including our institutions. The integrity of the competition must be preeminent. Its value is fundamental and far exceeds the value of winning. Indeed, it is the very source of any value in winning. Because the Big Ten believes Michigan committed violations this season, Petitti wrote that it was appropriate to impose punishment now. Quote, enforcing the sportsmanship policy with appropriate discipline this season in light of the university's established violations is thus of the utmost importance to protect the reputation of the conference and its member institutions and to ensure that our competitions on the field are honorable and fair. So there's what Michigan thinks, there's what Petitti thinks, and apparently here's what somebody else in the industry thinks of Petitti, because Brett McMurphy, who was very fired up about this thing on Twitter on Saturday, was not happy with the Big Ten's decision to do this, said industry source compared new Big Ten commish Tony Petitti to Pac-12 commish George Kliavkov. I don't believe it was meant as a compliment. How about that? All right, George, who has taken many an arrow from those of us here on this channel, but all across the college football world for his handling of the Pac-12 Pac-12 situation. He's now getting compared to Mr. Tony Petitti. That is not good company to be in if you are Petitti. And again, that is why I say this is something to monitor moving forward, how exactly this is going to be handled, the relationship between these two, and what it means for the dynamics of the Big Ten. This could be pretty wide-reaching. How much power will Petitti have? Will this affect his relationship with people in the league? And will this change anything in terms of the big picture course of conference realignment and college football? I think this is one of those things just to earmark and remember for later. I do not expect any imminent move or anything like that from Michigan in the Big Ten, but this could be the seed that plants and grows into something bigger later on. Keep an eye on it. Again, here on this channel, I'm live Wednesdays and Sundays. Make sure you check out the live shows. They are a blast. We're always talking conference realignment, college football, and college basketball, typically getting it from a Big 12 slant here on this channel. So please do subscribe if you haven't. Like the video. I would much appreciate that. Leave a comment in the comment section, and you can support the channel on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4 as well. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I appreciate all of you guys being here. Take care, and I will talk to you soon.